I guess. So anyway, welcome, and I can't believe how many people we've got here, and I'm really thankful and grateful that you're here. Okay, so a little bit about me. Like I said, I'm with the Rolling Plains chapter, the Master Naturalists, and I'm one of the old ladies in there. I'm one of the charter members, but I've been nature journaling for a long time, off and on. I finally got serious about it maybe in the mid 1990s. And then in 2000, I took a nature journaling class in Yellowstone with Hannah Hitchman. And it was just wonderful. And so I've been a little bit more serious about it ever since. So let's see, I'm gonna try and get through this in less than an hour, and I've got a few videos in here, and I can't see the chat now, so I will catch up with you here in a little bit. First off, journaling is one of the oldest methods of recording changes and events in the world. Explorers, naturalists, scientists, ship captains, and just regular people have kept journals. People like Lewis and Clark, Teddy Roosevelt, John Muir, Thomas Jefferson, and Beatrix Potter kept really, really nice journals. Your journal, it can be anything you want. It could be scientific, it can be a nature journal, it could be a daily journal, or you can have a specific theme like insects or special travels. And I have a couple of videos later to show you. I've got a bug journal that I've got and a couple travel journals. Okay, so some of the benefits of journaling. Journaling and drawing will help you slow down and observe what you're looking at. You'll observe and focus on details like shape and texture and spatial relationships. You'll notice and remember the subject better. When you look back at your sketch, you'll remember what it was like to be there, and the sights and the sounds and the smells. It's a way to document animals and plants and feathers that you're not allowed to keep. That'll keep you out of trouble. You don't have to worry about electronics, no batteries or chargers. You don't need Wi-Fi or internet. Now, saying that, some people do sketch on their iPad. I don't, but that's just a personal thing. And if you want to sketch on your iPad, just charge it up and get after it. You can sketch anywhere you want, and all you need is a pencil or pen and paper. You don't need to start with anything too fancy or expensive, but I would suggest that you experiment with papers and pencils and markers or paints. And the journal, finally, the journal is just for you. It can be neat or messy. It can be finished or not. You can draw or write, use your favorite quotes, do calligraphy, put color in there, write poetry, do collage, take pictures and paste them in there. Anything goes, but most of all, you just want to have fun and enjoy it. So the basic tools and equipment that you need. Keep it light and simple. And you can, I learned that the hard way. I used to carry all kinds of stuff, and really all you need is a journal, pens or pencils, and maybe a brush pen. You might not even need that. But I prefer to take an unlined journal with heavyweight paper, like mixed media paper or watercolor paper. And I said here your choice of size, but no smaller than a 5x7 and no larger than an 8.5x11. But that's really your choice. I have a small journal. It's, I think, a 3x5 in my purse at all times. So it's just a little tougher to work in that small space. On your pens, do something that you like. If you're going to do watercolor later, use a waterproof pen or ink. You can also use a not waterproof ink, like in a gel pen, and then you use your brush pen with a little bit of water, and you can get some great shadows and values and stuff in there. Pencils, I like a mechanical pencil just because then I don't have to worry about bringing a sharpener and catching the shavings and that kind of thing. Let's see. Okay, then a note about the journals. The journals come in all sizes and papers and shapes and that kind of thing. The heavier weight paper allows you to use both sides of the paper, and you won't bleed through and you won't see through, and you can put a little watercolor wash on there and it won't buckle up. That being said, you really don't I mean, you can go raid your printer and swipe a bunch of printer paper and use that. If that's all you got, that's what you got. But before you go, play around with your materials a little bit. Practice in the back of your journal. Just open it up and do a little test page, and that will help you. That'll help you get into your journal, because sometimes you can see the pictures there. Some of those journals are expensive, and I know the first really expensive journal I bought, which I'll show you later, it took me 2 years to make a mark in that journal, and I've gotten better about it. But if you go to the back and do a pen test and that kind of thing, then you've already messed up one page, and then go for it. Then you can just get into it and you don't have to worry about it anymore. So your basic supplies are pen, paper, and that's it. But then you can also take watercolor paints, watercolor pencils, or colored pencils. The watercolor pencils you really got to practice with a little bit. Brush pens, they can be loaded with water or ink. Here in Texas, you need some clips to hold down the pages if you're out in the wind. You need paper towels or rags if you're going to have the watercolor. Backpack to keep everything in. I like to take Ziploc baggies for trash and treasures. If you find something you just have to bring back. You need a hat if you're going to be sitting out in the sun. And if you have it and you want to mess with it, a lightweight chair or stool, something to sit on, something that's kind of comfortable. I don't usually take that, but because I'm too lazy and I don't want to carry it. So some optional gear, you can take your binoculars, magnifying glasses, field guides, chair, that kind of thing. Okay, some rules. And rules, are meant to be broken. So some of these are just common sense. But the first one is leave no trace. Pick up all your trash. And if you're painting out there with water, when you get that watercolor in there, some of that can be toxic and stuff. So take a container so you can pack that back out and dump it in the proper place. Don't disturb the wildlife or your subject. I had a killdeer out here in my driveway, and I wanted to paint a picture of her and her little nest, and I didn't want to disturb her, so on that one I did take a picture, and then I worked from that, and then I sat over to the side and worked with her. Be observant and pay attention where you sit. Check for things. If you're sitting in someplace rocky, look for snakes. Bird nests, eggs, and most feathers are protected, and it's illegal to have those in your possession. So you can do a drawing and make some notes and then leave that where you found it. Leave flowers and plants where they are and draw them in their environment. Some can be poisonous or have stickers and thorns. An example of that is on I think it was our January hike. We were looking at seeds and twigs and stuff because it was January, and we found a really neat little viney thing, and just so happened to be that was poison ivy, and it can make you itch in winter as well as summer. So So don't mess with it. You can draw the flowers and the leaves and the stems and document how they're growing and what kind of ground they're in and that kind of thing. If your subject will fit on the page, I like to draw it in that actual size. You don't have to do that. But if it's large, scale it down, take some measurements to aid in your identification when you get back. If your subject is really, really small, you might want to draw it larger, but then make a little notation about the actual size. And you can estimate the size by comparing it to something like a dollar bill is slightly over 6 inches, a quarter is 1 inch wide, and a dime is 3/4 of an inch wide. You can also take a paper ruler and glue it in the back of your journal, and that's pretty handy. Label what you know on your sketch, and like for example, if you're sketching birds or bugs, note sizes, colors, markings on the wings and around the eyes. So getting started, again, this is probably one of your most important things. Watch where you sit. So watch for ants or stickers or scat. And you don't want to sit on those, but you might want to sit next to them, because sometimes there's some interesting things happening in that poop. There's some great beetles that go in there. So relax and get comfortable. Open your journal, get your pen ready. Set a timer if you need to. I usually need to because I get in this zone and I zone out. So set a timer if you need it. Get quiet, be still. And once you're sketching, then you get in that zone and time will fly by and you won't even notice it. Setting the timer will let you relax and you can watch your subject, and you don't have to worry about getting back to camp for supper or running out of time, or your husband coming and hunting you down with the park rangers. Ask yourself some questions like, how do you feel in this place? I like to make a note of the date and the weather, the temperature, the sights and sounds, the smells. Just feel the air and how that makes you feel. What do you see that interests you? Are you looking at the big picture and sketching a landscape, or are you starting with something smaller, like a flower or a bird or a bug? And just feel the light. Look at the light. You can also ask what's your subject doing and how to get there, and how does that subject fit into the environment? Then after you've got all your questions all lined out and everything, just kind of clear your mind and draw what you see and not what you think you see. If you can't see it, if there's a tree blocking your view, if you can't see it, don't draw it, because that'll mess things up. You can make some notes recording the size and color or actions what your subject's doing. Okay, some tips. To me, a landscape is just the scariest thing to draw. So when you look at my sketches, a lot of them are just individual little things. But I'm trying to work on the landscapes. So when you're out there, if you squint your eyes and make things a little bit blurry, that helps simplify the scene, and you can see the simple shapes. And you start blocking in those big shapes, and then you can fill in with the details. Animals and birds, they move around a lot. You'll have to sketch quickly and try and get a basic shape down. And then when your subject moves, just start another sketch on it somewhere else on the page. It might just be one line when you get started, but then when it returns to that first position, you can go back to the earlier sketch. And then before you know it, you'll have a whole page full of sketches and poses. If you want to do birds, bird feeders are good places to practice sketching the birds. If you note wing colors and markings and that kind of thing, that'll help you identify things later when you get back to the house. Wildlife, they rarely sit still. So kind of the same thing with the small animals and everything. You can do multiple sketches, but the first thing is don't disturb the wildlife and make sure that you're in a safe position and sketch quickly. You don't want to go sit out in the middle of that buffalo herd and sketch. You can't roller skate in the buffalo herd, and you can't sketch in the buffalo herd. So anyway, zoos are a good place to practice live animal sketching. And then many natural history museums will let you sketch their exhibits, and they stand still. I like to draw my pets, and for the most part, they're pretty cooperative, and I have sketchbooks full of napping dogs and cats, and that's my Basset Hound Penny laying on the couch, which she wasn't supposed to be doing, but anyway. Then there's shadows. When you're sketching outside, shadows move around and change quickly. So try to get your basic sketch down and make some notes before the shadows move, or you might lose the light. And you also want to look for colors that are reflected in the shadows. The example I have here is the Badlands of South Dakota. And oh my goodness, the shadows and the colors changed so fast there. It was very daunting to try and sketch a landscape there. So then editing. You don't have to draw everything, but don't draw what you can't see. I don't like to draw telephone poles and things like that. I like, when I do a landscape or something, I want it to look like I'm out in the wilderness, and I might be in the Walmart parking lot, but I want it to look like I'm out in the wilderness. So just draw what you're interested in. And then sketching with others. That one's a big one for me. I've really been trying to work on sketching with others because I'm really a little bit shy about that, and I sketch a lot in my pickup, but I'm beginning to learn that people really don't care what you're doing. And they're not as interested in you as you think they are. So I've been really trying to work on sketching quickly, and when we go on our Saturday hikes, I have a special little sketchbook, and I try and sketch as quick as I can, and then I'll take a reference photo to finish it later. And so this example is one of our Saturday hikes, and this was at the Wichita Bluff Nature Area, I think, and from one of the overlooks. And I did the ink sketch there from the overlook, and then I took the reference photo, which is horrible, but it kind of helped. But you can see that I can see Big Blue from where we were, but you can see that I really did get that a little bit too big. But even if you do just these quick sketch things, it gives it a lot of life and energy that you won't get from doing the same sketch from the photo, in my opinion. So then we go to page layouts, and there's no set way to lay out your journal page. It's up to you, and you can go across both pages. You can do one page portrait, up and down, or you could do one page landscape. You can do whatever you want. You can fill the whole page. You can do lots of little sketches. You can add calligraphy, stamps, borders, just all kinds of things. So you got your little journal and you got your pen and you're ready to go, but you get out there and it really can be overwhelming, especially when you're someplace like the Grand Canyon. I mean, you're sitting up there on that rim and you just think, wow, where do you start? So of course I do that on my patio. I can go outside and think, well, where do I start? So on days that you just really don't know where to begin, here's a few things to get you started. First off, if you can't go outside, just look out your window and sketch your bird feeder or bird houses or just the view. You can also do dogs, cats, and pets. Draw your house plants. As a last resort, you can sketch from a nature documentary on TV, and that has the added bonus of you can pause your subject as long as you're watching by yourself. when you're watching with other people, they don't always appreciate that. But that I do kind of like doing that because that helps me sketch faster also. I'm really trying to work on that, sketching faster. And that's my kitty cat, Pearl. She's not a very willing subject most of the time. You can go to a zoo, a museum, or a garden. Those are great places to study plants and animals. A botanical garden. Then if you are outside and you don't know where to start, one thing you can do is make a grid on your page, or fill the page with little boxes like I've done here on the left side. Then you can fill those spaces with patterns or leaves or flowers or bugs. This one on the left side there, that was an obscure field journal exercise. The first row were things on stalks. So I walked around and found flowers and things that were on stalks. Then the second row was the leaves of those things that were on stalks. The third row were different grasses that were around, and then the fourth row was seed pods. Then you can also draw the same object from different angles. If your subject's a flower, draw it from the front, from the side, and the back. Draw the leaves and the whole plant. That's one of my biggest problems with field journals, field guides. When you get a plant one, they show the flower really well, but they don't necessarily show the leaves or the whole plant. So in your journal, you can do that. Okay, and I'm showing you this one so you can see that I make mistakes in mine too, and there's a great big goober in the middle of it. But make a sound map. This is a pretty easy thing to do. I do this a lot in the mornings. I'll just sit in one place and just listen. And then on this one, I say place a mark in the center of the page, but I was sitting up next to the house, so I'm down here at the bottom of the page. And then I did a few little quick sketches in there, but you don't have to. But I just started listing what I heard and kind of where I heard it. Like there was a jet plane flying above us. There were 2 bobwhites. There was quite a bit of wind through the pecans and the mesquite. There was some little bird that was really chattering in one of the trees. There was a meadowlark on the fence, just that kind of thing. Just be still and observe what's around. And I also marked up there in the top right corner, it was windy and cold that day. It was 60 degrees. It was cloudy. I was facing west. It was about 8:20, and I sat out for 10 minutes. I didn't put the date on there. Should put the date. Anyway. Another thing you can do is make an event map. And this is a more active kind of thing. You'd also put sounds in there, but as you walk through a meadow or your garden or on a trail, make a map as you go and document what you see and what you hear and what you smell. And I think that one was in Yellowstone that's from a few years back. Then you can do an area study, and this is kind of fun. You just take a small area in your yard. If you have kids and have hula hoops, you can throw a hula hoop down there. Or if you have some string or rope, just rope off a little area. It doesn't have to be very big. And then observe everything inside that hula hoop. So I've got the big picture over there, and it doesn't really look like a whole lot is in there. But then when you get to really looking at it, there's a lot of different little weedy plants, and looks like there's some kind of ant activity happening there. So that can kind of get you started on something. Then you can do a curiosity chain. You can write and or observe, draw your observations while you ask questions. Like, what do you notice about this? What do you wonder about it? What does it remind you of? How did it get here, and why is it here, and is it beneficial? And you're probably looking at those thinking, what is that? And This was the hatching of assassin bugs out on a mesquite tree in my yard. And I didn't sketch them, but I did take pictures of it. But this would be a good thing to sketch. And finally, if you just can't seem to draw it, and you just can't get into that zone, then you can write about it. And when I do these nature journal things with kids, you know, kids will start whining about I can't draw, and I said, well, you can write a poem about it, and they get to drawing real fast. But really, if what you're seeing is really difficult and you just too difficult to draw, just write a poem or write a paragraph describing what you're looking at, and that'll help you remember it later too. And nature is everywhere, even in New York City. Sometimes you just have to look a little harder for it. Okay, now this, and I hope I don't bore you to death, but so here, I've got 4 videos of different journals. This first one is my bug journal. And let's see. This journal is a Moleskine watercolor journal, and it's a landscape format. It's 8 1/4 by 5 1/8. And all the drawings in this are ink and watercolor. And on these, I do take a lot of time on these, and I really study them, and I try and do each insect actual size on the page. They are dead when I do it, but I really do like bugs, and some of them are just so beautiful. When you really get to looking at them, they're just amazing. There's our logo bug. So on this one, I do take more time and really work on it. Okay, the next one. This is a theme journal. This is my Alaska journal. This is my Alaska vacation. And this journal is this was a special journal. It's a handmade journal by Iona Handcrafted Books. It's a smallish journal. It's 5 1/2 by 7 3/4. And it's got it's a leather cover with handmade watercolor paper. And this is the reason you really need to test your materials and know your materials, because this paper is very, very thick and very soft, and it's hard to write on. And when you put watercolor on it, it just sucks the water out of your brush. It really takes the water. And on this one, in Alaska, I couldn't sketch with other people. So the first part of that journal is mostly writing, and I wrote what we did every day and that kind of thing. I might do a quick little sketch. When I took lots of pictures, and when we got home, I did the sketches. And you can see that I took a lot more time with them, and they're not really as exciting as some of the ones that I did on location. And yes, I did pick a few leaves. Oh, maps. You can put maps in your journals. I love maps. I don't know what else to say about that, but just that was a really special trip. So I wanted to document that, and I will go back to my journal more than I'll go back to my photo scrapbook. Okay, the next one is my Grand Canyon book, and on this one I went on a hike with with 9 other ladies. And I really didn't have time to sketch on the trail. I was too busy trying not to die. But so I wrote a lot, and there was a few that I did there on location. These are all on location. This was some more writing. Those were stamps. So then when I got home, then I got into the sketches, and I did all the sketches. That was the lady that led our hike. She was an older lady, and she could hike everybody into the ground. Again, I did lots of maps. That I did that hike in February, so there was ice and snow on the ground. That's a view from the watchtower, one of my favorite places in the Grand Canyon. So that was us starting down the trail that was covered with ice. That was everything I took. And these are just different things on the trail going down. I like to put little quotes in there every once in a while, especially if you got a big blank space. Now I'm down to the bottom. That was our cabin in the little map of Phantom Ranch where we stayed. This was Bright Angel Trail. Okay, I did draw a telephone pole there. This was coming back out. And then we had Valentine's, that was me coming out. That was Valentine's breakfast. And okay, and that's one thing I like on that one page. I guess I could have, hold on. Let me go back just a little bit. Let me pause that. Oops, sorry. On this left-hand page, I like to do, I like to make a list in the back of my journal at the end of a at the end of a trip, and I like to list the things I've learned, and I learned a lot on that trail. And then I like to make a list of things that I need to do for next time. You know, like eat better, bring better food, and, you know, rethink the camera and that kind of thing. Anyway, that's just another little thing you can put in your journal. Okay, and finally, this is the last one, I promise. This one is the very first nice journal I bought. This is the one that it took me 2.5 years to make a mark in it. So let's see, and that was the very first thing I drew in there, and so I messed it up right off the bat, and so I could move on. Anytime you do a drawing that you don't like, just turn the page and start a new one. That's what those are for. And if you really mess it up, you can glue those 2 pages together. This journal is another one of the Iona handmade books. It's a little bit bigger. It's a 6x9 3/4. The paper in this one is a handmade hemp paper, and it's still hard to draw on because it's got a rough texture, but it takes the watercolor a little bit better than the watercolor paper, actually. Most of these are ink and watercolor. That's a trail map for one of my favorite parks. Every time I go on a trail, I come home and I mark that I took that trail. Most of these are ink and watercolor. That's what I usually work in. I finally learned I don't sketch in pencil very often because, well, number one, this paper, you can't erase on it. If you erase, you'll have a big hole in your paper. It'll just fall apart, and then you can't paint over it. But on that page, I collaged a little bit. There's some sacred dirt there. And on this journal is just, it's a little more special, and I do take more time, but I do work on location in this journal. And some of them you can tell it. But That's, feathers and things. Different grasses. I like to do the different grasses, and I'm trying to learn those. But you can do anything. That mushroom that was in my yard, and it didn't last very long, so I was glad to get that done. Let's see. It's my favorite bird, the meadowlark. And on some of those, I've tried different. Most of the time, I use watercolor. Every once in a while, I'll use some white ink or white gouache to do the white parts. But most of the time, I just try and leave the white. Let's see. I think that's the Quartz Mountains. That was my trip to West Texas with Dr. The spider guy. Anyway, and on that one, this last page, when we were in West Texas, we were hiking. Dr. Norman Horner. Sorry, we were hiking out of a canyon, and my boots literally fell apart. It was so hot. And I had taken duct tape and tried to keep the soles on there, but they completely fell apart. And that was the end, and it just the perfect time to end the journal. So anyway, those are notes on my journals. And then, okay, you can never have too many art books or field books or anything like that. And I've got this list here, and don't panic, because I also have a PDF file for you, and we will send you a link to that PDF file that has a little booklet in there that has everything I've talked about and this list of resources and how to get in touch with me. But even with all these books, try not to spend too much time on the internet or with your nose in the book. The best way to learn is to go outside and practice. And this John Muir Laws, he's really great in this nature journaling business. He calls that pencil miles. So you got to put in your pencil miles. So that's the end of that. But thank you so much for coming and signing up for this. I really appreciate everybody. And we're going to meet back here at 4 o'clock, and everybody can grab your journal and go out and do some kind of nature journaling. This is my sketching buddy, Abby. We're working on it. She likes to trample my subject a lot. But
Laura, there are a few questions for you, so if you have time.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing. So I think I did I stop sharing?
Yes.
Am I back? Okay, I'm back.
You're back. Okay.
Right.
One of the first questions that we had was your journal paper, and you did talk a little bit about that as you went, but is it homemade?
Some of it is. The Grand Canyon one was a store-bought Stillman and Burn. I didn't tell you that. It was a store-bought Stillman and Burn, and that's probably my favorite go-to store-bought journal. The Stillman and Burn Beta series, because it's a good heavy paper. You can put lots of water on it. It won't buckle too bad. It'll buckle a little bit, and you can do pretty much anything you want to on there. You want to look for a mixed media paper. If you get a drawing paper, it's usually too thin and it'll buckle, and sometimes you can see through it. And I hate it when I get a really nice picture, a really nice drawing done, and you can see the bad one on the other side. So anyway, I hope that answered that.
The next one was, what do you think about the Write in the Rain products?
I've never heard of those.
Sounds interesting. I guess you can journal where you're outside and it's raining.
I guess so. I have to look that up. I'm gonna write that down.
Okay, our next Next question. Let's see. Do you make your notes about dimensions, sizes, etc. in the same notebook where you do the actual drawing, or reserve that notebook for just the art?
No, I'll do it. I'll do it actually on the drawing in that journal. About the only time I have a separate journal is like when we went to Alaska. If I'm going to write my day, a lot of times I'll write it in a spiral notebook first and do my grammar check and my spell check and everything before I write it neater in my journal. But you can keep two separate journals. That's totally fine. That's just too hard for me to keep up with.
Okay. The next one says, how much time per day do you put into this, and how do you schedule this into your day?
Well, I wish I had a schedule. I really do. I'm really bad about it. I don't do this every single day, but I'm trying to do better about that since I'm preaching it. I need to be practicing it. So I do write every morning, and I do a little doodle every day, but that's not the nature stuff. So what I've been trying to do is every morning when I drink my tea and eat my breakfast out on the patio, at the very least do the sound map. Just that helps me learn the birds and see the birds and that kind of thing.
Oh, so, yeah, I can admit I love your doodles every day. She posts them on Yellow Cat Studios, isn't that right?
Yeah, it's on a Blogspot blog thing, and I have that address in that PDF that we'll send you here in a little bit.
Okay, next question. It says, is your lettering all done freehand?
Yes, but you can use stencils. I've seen people use stencils and stamps, some really, really cool stuff with stamps. But again, that's too much for me to keep up with. I'm scared to death I'm going to lose my favorite sketching pen out in the field somewhere. And so anyway.
Understand. It says, what brand, size pen do you sketch with?
Okay, my very favorite sketching pen, and I can show it to you. Hold on. Okay, when I'm in the studio, and I'm just kind of embarrassed, but my husband's not here, so I can show you this. But this is my very favorite pen. It's a fountain pen. It's a Pilot Namiki Falcon. And it was very expensive, so it doesn't get to go out with me very often. This one was a lot cheaper, but it's also a fountain pen, and it's a TWSBI Echo, and it has a massive amount of. I can load that ink in there and sketch for a week, and never have to worry about it. So that way I don't have to carry another bottle of ink. But the problem with fountain pens, which those are my favorite, but they do have issues. If you're going up in the mountains, the change in altitude can make them leak, or if you're in a plane or something like that. So a lot of times I'll take one of these. It's a micron, and it's got a real fine point on there. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? Anyway, and you can get different sizes in this. You can also get a brush pen in this. And I don't feel too bad if I lost that. It would not upset me. These two are my special friends, and it would very much upset me.
Okay, now a question from Janice says, do you display and sell finished framed works too? And I can vouch for that. Yes, she does. I've got one. But
yeah. I won't pull anything out of my my sketchbook, but I've done some drawings of especially bugs and that kind of thing. I need to do more of that.
She's also I mentioned when I sent out the email to everyone that she was on Texas Country Reporter for her sculptures. She taught herself how to weld and then puts together metal sculptures of different bugs and insects that are just amazing. So I always call Laura our celebrity.
That's kind of scary, but yeah, and a lot of that stuff's on my blog. You'll have to dig through the doodles to find it, but there's a lot of stuff on my blog, so you can dig through there and find it.
Okay, next question says, what is your favorite journal size for field journaling?
For field journal, it's the my nature journal size. What size was that? What did I just do? Oh, I don't like it over an 8.5 by 11, but my I will do. I lost that page. I like a 5 by 7. That's my. I guess it's a 8.5 by 5.5. Sorry, I like that size, maybe a little bit bigger. If you get into the handmade journals, they tend to run a little bit bigger. I think it's a better cut of the paper and that kind of thing. But the 8.5 by 5.5 is it's small, and I'm not calling attention to myself, by pulling out this great big thing and sketching huge paper or anything like that, because then people will come over and say, "What are you doing?" But I feel like I can hide in the corner a little bit better with my little journal. And,
okay. Let's see. I think this one's from a friend of yours. It says, on setting a timer, you mentioned husband and park rangers out searching. Was that from experience?
Yes, it was. Well, the park rangers, he was to that point, but yeah, I was coming back to camp, and here he came down, and he was not happy with me, but yeah.
I could see that happening.
Well, it was I said, "Oh, I'll be back in 30, 40 minutes," and it was quite a bit later.
Okay. See, did you major in art, or is this your career, and how did you fine-tune your skills?
No, I didn't. Okay. No, I didn't major in art. My mother was an artist. She was a watercolor artist, and she did very, very photorealistic things, and I've tried really hard to get away from that. I mean, I love the photorealistic things, and it takes a lot of skill to do that. But if I wanted it to look like a photo, I'd just take a picture and go on. I'm really getting to where I like the more painterly, and the drawings with a little more energy in them. But no, I did not major in art. And when I was growing up, I really fought the art. My mother, tried real hard. And I always had to be the fill-in person. If she had a class or something, and she needed 10 people and she only had 9 show up, well, I was the 10th person. So I sat through a lot of art classes. But I fought that for a long time. And my major was range management. I wanted to be a forest ranger. But in this part of Texas, there's not a whole lot of forests. So, and as far as fine tuning, just practice. And I guess this kind of is my career now. I spent 28 years in start off in printing, and then I went to an advertising agency, and I was the art director there for a long time. So I've always been exposed to good art, but as far as doing it, just practice, and just you mess up a page, turn the page. One other thing I'll tell you real quick. I do buy the cheap journals too. I'll go to Michael's and get I think it's Artist Loft journals, and you can get an 8.5 by 11 or a 5 by 7 for I think $5. And it's cheap paper, but it's good for drawing and that kind of thing. And when my husband and I go travel, he always drives because I don't back a trailer. I can pull it forward, but he drives. But when I get in a vehicle, I will fall asleep in 30 seconds unless I'm doing something. And he likes to listen to audiobooks, which put me to sleep even faster. So I will get those cheap $5 sketchbooks and prop it up on my lap, and then I will try and sketch as we're going down the road. Like sketch if we see a butte coming up or something, or a mountain or something, I'll try and sketch just really fast, and they're messy and just awful, but it keeps me awake. And
That's good.
It helps me sketch faster, because even when I look back, I'll think, oh, I remember that was on 287 up in the Cap Rock, and I can kind of remember where we were. So I think that helps on that.
Awesome. Okay, there's a few more questions. It says, do you give any intro class for kids age 10, and where? And do you have any advice for introducing kids to nature journaling, and how best to get them excited about it?
Oh man. Well, I don't really teach classes anywhere, except I'll do one of these kinds of things, or sometimes in Wichita Falls. I'm not sure where you're at, but if you're around Wichita Falls, sometimes the Kemp Center will do some classes, and I've done this for them once before. As far as kids, just I don't have kids, so I'm not really sure.
Well, I know one of our one of our members that's watching you right now is a teacher, and she does it with her kids. If Cindy is there and wants to add anything to that, you can, Cindy.
Yeah, and if you're trying to teach this to anybody, I just got this book. Oh, it's backwards in it. How to Teach Nature Journaling by John Muir Laws and Emily Ligren. And I just got that. I haven't even had time I don't know how to make that not backwards. But anyway, it's a really pretty book. You can get it on Amazon. And I haven't really had time to look through it, but it has a lot of kids stuff in it. The hardest thing with kids that I've noticed on my little sketching things with them is, some of them will sit there and I don't want to do that. And that's when you tell them, we'll write a poem, and then they'll get back on the sketch. Probably the biggest thing, like for me as a kid, would have been not touching the thing, because I have a real problem. I like to touch it. But in that book, there's a lot of different things, and the sound map thing. If you could get them, you might not be able to do it for 10 minutes, but just try and get them to do it for 5 minutes, or the little mapping deal. I guess grow something in your classroom, and you could, have them sketch it every day and monitor how it grows and that kind of thing.
That's a great idea. Yes. I noticed some of our members some of them lead children programs.
Yeah.
Julie Hunt, she said she does journaling with her classes. If any of you want to unmute yourself and add something in, you're welcome to do that. Just unmute and you can add something.
Yeah.
Laura, this is Cindy.
Hey.
Yeah, I use John Muir Law's website a lot in my class, and we've watched his videos. They're really long and they're geared to adults, so I've just used snippets of it. But there's a free curriculum. It's I can't remember what it's called, the California
Wonder if it's on here.
Nature. It's on John Muir Law's website, but it's a
Yeah.
free curriculum
And he has,
that I like to use.
he has a lot of free stuff on his website. And his website is in the, I think I put him on the in the references thing on the PDF. So, oh yeah, and somebody said the One Small Square would be a great series for kids too, and yeah, that would be good.
You know, a lot of my parents ask, what do we need to do this summer to get ready? And I said, if I could pick one thing for you to do with your kids, it would be nature journaling, because they're writing, they're observing, they're appreciating God's creation, and they're getting outside and being active.
Yeah, and I used to try and do that when I was a kid too, and before I knew what I was doing or anything. And I remember my sister making so much fun of me, but I kept doing it. So, but anyway, so does anybody have any other questions or anything for me? Okay, well, I guess that's pretty much it. And so everybody grab your journal and grab your mask. This is my Smokey Bear mask. And go out and, okay, I can't talk with that. Get your pencil and paper, whatever, and go out and sketch something. And Lynn's going to send you a link for the 4 o'clock meeting. We'll come back and kind of share what we've done. And then in that link, there'll be that email, there will be a link for the meeting, and also a link for a little PDF booklet that has everything I talked about in there. It doesn't have all the pictures, but it's got what I said. So anyway, if nobody's got any other questions, I guess everybody go sketch.